It looks like the redistricting might not stop with just Texas and California, as it looks like other states are poising themselves to fall like dominoes if the redistricting is pushed through in California. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. That is right, we got another video on redistricting. You know, the more I think about this, the more I kind of question if we should be upset that California is potentially getting less representation up in Congress for pro-Second Amendment people. And the other side of me wonders if I should or shouldn't be saying thank you to Governor Newsom. So to talk us through that today, we have brought back our legislative director here at CRPA. He's also the host of Firing Line Radio. You can catch him every Saturday at 1 p.m. on AM 590 The Answer. That, of course, is Rick Travis. Rick, thanks for being with us today.
Always a pleasure, Kevin.
Absolutely. And guys, before we get into this, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It really helps get the information out there. We're trying to bring this collective together to push our Second Amendment rights forward for California through these 2026 elections and beyond. So please go ahead, like, share, subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Let's go ahead and dive into this really quick. Rick, I want to read from ABC News. They put out an article talking about some of these other states. So Jacob, if you could pull that up, let's go ahead and read. Guys, this is from the article that is titled Redistricting Arms Race. These are the states, in addition to Texas and California, where parties could redraw maps. And it reads like this. As Texas Republicans prepare to approve and adopt new congressional maps at the urging of President Donald Trump, and Democrats aim to respond in California, several other states could follow suit. Republicans in Indiana, Missouri, and Florida have openly discussed the possibility of reworking their maps ahead of the 2026 midterms, while Democratic governors in Illinois, New York, and Maryland have also floated doing the same. Indiana, which has 2 Democratic seats, appears to be the furthest along, as Vice President J.D. Vance has met with Governor Mike Braun and state lawmakers on the issue. ABC News has reviewed the process in states across the country and identified some of the most likely to take up redistricting on their own. Each state has their own rules governing redistricting and laws on the books dictating how to do so. Both parties take part in gerrymandering, drawing up states' congressional maps for partisan gain. Some states have independent and nonpartisan commissions established by state legislators that are tasked with drawing up these maps. The bottom line here, Republicans have more opportunities across the map to gerrymander House districts than Democrats do. In most states where Democrats are in control of the state house and governor mansion, there are legal and constitutional barriers to revisit their maps in the middle of the decade as a result of previous efforts to install independent commissions and, in some cases, prior state court rulings. And then the article goes on to discuss Texas and California redistricting, what the seats look like there, but it also identifies Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, Florida, Illinois, New York, and Maryland as potential for redistricting as well. And here's the scoop. Like it already said, there's a lot more opportunities for Republicans to pick up seats in Republican-held states currently than there are in Democrat states. And I think part of this goes to some of these states that are commanded by Democrats at this point have already been gerrymandered a little bit. We've already seen that in California. Same thing with Maryland. I think gerrymandering there would give them 1 seat because it's already kind of been gerrymandered to give them as many seats as they were able to collect earlier. So Rick, I want to bring you in here before we start getting into the overall idea. We've been talking about this specifically in the context of California for a little bit now. Can you just remind us, and for those who haven't been following along, not familiar with what gerrymandering is, can you kind of go over this idea of redistricting specifically here in California and what it's meant to affect?
Sure. In California, it is being purported by the governor to be a retaliation method against the governor of Texas. There's been a thing between Gavin Newsom and Texas Governor Abbott of whatever he does, Newsom's trying to counter it. But that's like to look over here at what's going on. Don't look at what's in front of us. And the reason I say that is because when you gerrymander, and both sides do it, both parties do it, but when you do it, what you're not doing is just what you look like you're doing. So in the case of California, it's designed to give them at least 5 of the remaining 9 districts to turn them from being Republican red districts to blue districts and thereby Democrats. And you can look at Doug LaMalfa's district way up in the top CD1 and see where like they're literally drawing the line all the way down the coastline to pour enough Democratic votes in to turn that election around, make it near impossible for him to win. But it's not just there. It's that is also going to be the target area for money. And I'm going to tell you part of the reason for doing this is if you notice, there's been a lot of things in the media about tech companies doing filtering, doing other things that could hurt Republicans' ability to raise money. And so this is an economic political war going on between the two parties. And part of that comes down to that when you redistrict an area at a congressional district level, you also have to realize there's state senate, there is state assembly districts under those, that now you're bringing more money from on top to go down in there, and you're depriving money from the opposing party with this redistricting. So this makes those races even tighter and harder. In some cases where the redistricting is happening in California, it may weaken some Democratic seats. So that is creating turmoil beyond the congressional district where everybody's looking at.
And you kind of stated it yourself already. This is kind of reactionary stuff, right? So you have Texas that started doing it, California, as we've seen with litigation before. We've already kind of been over that in past videos, but sees what Texas is doing and says, okay, well, we are natural adversaries at this point. I'm going to do the exact same thing that you're doing while telling people how awful you are for doing it. But then we kind of start seeing all of these other states potentially start jumping in to the point where when you look at the overall picture, these congressional districts are for the House of Representatives. That is a federal representation of the people. And it looks like with a lot more opportunities for Republicans to come out on top. This is kind of where I draw the line. I don't really know. Do we end up seeing a campaign slogan of Republican, House of Representatives brought to you by Gavin Newsom in 2028? How does this actually play out when it's all said and done?
I don't think you're going to see anything like that. I think what you will see, and you're already seeing, and will be carried on to 28, is Gavin Newsom. Is he really doing this because he doesn't like Abbott, or is he doing this because he wants to make a democratically controlled Congress, get more Democratic areas, convince people who do not agree with the Democratic Party, too late, you've already lost, your state's already gone, it's already went that way, don't show up to vote, breed apathy because Gavin Newsom wants to be president of the United States. I think if you were to look at it from that point, that Gavin has been running for the presidency since the 24 election. He was pissed off when Kamala Harris got anointed and we had the bloodless coup for the DNC. He saw himself as the heir apparent backing up Biden. He was robbed of that choice. There's a couple of videos that came out right as that was going on. He obviously wasn't happy, obviously let go of his colors. And all the work he's been doing in California, a lame duck governor, which is where Gavin Newsom's at, would not be pouring all this time and money and effort into doing this unless they knew they were going to benefit from it possibly down the road. This is all about Gavin, like it's always been all about Gavin.
And while, you see potentially your party making gains, I guess I'm just sort of curious, is this something that is worth rooting for, or is this something that you can kind of reconcile when for so long we've been saying that gerrymandering is a bad thing? Is this a regression or a degradation of how the system is supposed to work, with this sort of domino effect of states just sort of fortifying their districts and borders for political gain?
So that's a great question, Kevin. And the issue with that question is there's differences between many of those states and California, for example. Many of those states do not have a constitutional commission that was set up. But you got to remember, we voted as Californians to have an independent commission before the last, I believe it was the 2020, before the 2020 census. That commission was brought forward, whether you love it, hate it, it's not the point. That is the commission that decides the districts. They go through literally hundreds of meetings, lots of documentation, lots of research to try to make it so those districts truly represent the people of that district. Whereas with this redistricting, you're going to have people that work in tech industry telling people with cattle how they should handle that. They're completely different. And what I think you're also going to realize is that no, we should never root for gerrymandering like it's being done in California, because the will of the people is being violated. You got to remember, Kevin, this last week when this started to go through, people in the Democratic Party were forced. Newsom held a power meeting he's never held in office before, where it was mandatory for every Democrat in the Capitol to show up, plus some of the congressional Democrats. They had a private meeting and said, we're just going to vote this thing through. We're not even going to look at it. And in fact, we have several reliable sources, several members of the legislature that said they got the finalized bill with all of its weird amendments in it 10 minutes before it was going to go to a vote. Nobody had time to read it when the call for the vote was being done. The person behind those calls was Gavin Newsom. Let's not lie to ourselves. That's what was going on with this. This is not right. That is a denial of fair representation. It's a denial of many things in our Constitution that was done. There wasn't free speech. There wasn't the right to redress government. There was a lot of things that happened in this. And so, no, under no circumstance should we be rooting for it. In fact, we should be working to root it out. We should be working to make sure that Proposition 50 fails, and not just by a little bit, by a whole lot of it, and send a message. We published all the names of the people that voted for it. The people of California should be looking at those people and going, yeah, no, you're not going back into office. We're voting you out because this was a bridge too far.
Yeah, and we have published those names, and we're kind of discussing at this point, is it worth maybe creating a one-click politics campaign just to let our representatives know how upset we are about this redistricting? So, you kind of got the state level purview there. What about the national level? I guess, what are your final thoughts here with this domino effect that we're seeing? What do you expect to see over the next coming months, here in California, along with the national story?
Well, I think what you're going to see is a couple things. One, for sure, there's going to be states that within their system, they can, like Texas, lawfully and legally choose to do this. I don't think it's always right to do it, especially I think it's much more honest to change the district maps every 10 years. I think this redistricting in between censuses isn't the best thing for people, but every state has the right to do it the way that they're set up to do it. So I'm not going to come out and say a state like Missouri or Florida or Iowa doesn't have the right. If it's within their constitution, then they can do what they want to do. What I do think you're going to see over the next several months because of this is if Californians tell Gavin Newsom and the progressive left that they can't do this, we defeat Proposition 50. Then you're going to see many other states either drop it or run from it and never even get it out of the cradle, so to speak. But if Gavin Newsom gets this through, two things I think are for sure. You will see redistricting being done like changing clothes. And people need to realize this redistricting that was labeled by the governor in this state is temporary. It's not temporary. It impacts the elections of 26, 28, and 30. So that's a presidential election, and possibly we're looking at sheriff's elections, congressional elections, Senate elections, and all the state held offices. So this isn't temporary as in a one-off election. This will literally change the course of 3 elections. And so those are things that we have to be prepped for, that if our people don't get out there and say no, if the common sense California doesn't say no, yeah, there's going to be some pretty negative impacts over the next few months. And I don't think any thoughtful person, whether a Democrat, Republican, or independent, is going to sit there and say, yeah, turning the whole state blue so you can make them say what you want them to say. Wow, isn't that a little bit like Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot at stake here. So definitely worth following along. Rick, I thank you for the wisdom here. And guys, if you want to see the breakdown from this ABC article on what potentially could happen, again, I do think that a lot of the domino falling would start here in California, like Rick was just saying. So whichever way that decides to go. But if you want to see the potential, click on that link. You can kind of see the breakdown state by state. The article does provide that. But Rick, I do want to thank you very much. I know you're a busy guy. Thanks for coming on and sharing with us today.
Anytime, Kevin. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And guys, once again, if you like these videos, you like this content, you want to continue to see it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the videos. It really helps get the information out there. You know what's also in the description down below are links to our sponsors. That's right. We do have sponsors for this channel. They want to see our Second Amendment rights continue to be pushed in the right direction as far as retaining them. So go ahead and give those links a check. Also, some really good resources down there. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you on the next one.